All right, we're going to do lessons 1.9. We're going to talk about variables, constants, and algebraic expressions. And I need you to get out your book, your algebra book, and I need you to open it to page 33 for all of you who have the workbook parts. But if you have the textbook, it's section 1.9, and it's pretty close to the beginning, okay? There's going to be some little green boxes on it for us to read. 1.9 is what we're doing, and there's some green boxes. Maybe not green. It's actually kind of brownish. Some of them are green and brown, okay? So we're going to read this. We're going to talk about them, and then we're going to do some examples on the next slide. So right now we're just going to read these. I need everybody to look up front, so making sure you're reading them, unless you're reading it down here. I'm hearing some little whispers here and there. All right, so what's the first one we're going to do? Variable, okay? A variable says that they're letters that represent the values. What is the most common variable?
7.
X.
Which is it, 7 or X? Okay, let's look at the definition. A variable, is that a number? It's letters, and we use X often, but does it have to be X? No. A lot of times they'll even use X or Y or Z. And when I make my Z's, by the way, I always put a little line in them. Why do I put a line in mine? That's exactly right. My 2's can be, that's a 2 and that's a Z, and if I want to make sure it's a different. That's what I do. Some people put their on 7s, and I don't understand because a 7 doesn't look like anything to me. But for sure, I always put it on my Z's. All right, so I make sure I tell the difference. What about a constant? What's a constant? Someone who feels comfortable reading out loud. Can someone read that out loud for me? Go ahead, Zeb. What's a constant?
A numeral or a symbol whose value never changes.
Okay, so I'm going to write one up here. Are you ready for a constant, everyone?
Sure.
Does that ever change value?
No.
5 always represents the number of fingers on my hand, correct? It never represents anything else, okay? Now, this symbol is also usually considered a constant because it does not change, although it keeps going on forever and ever. It's always 3.14159, 3653, and so forth and so forth and so forth. But it's a constant. It looks like a variable because it's a letter, it's a Greek letter, but it doesn't change because it represents a number that doesn't change. Are you with me so far? All right.
Do any numbers ever change?
One more time.
Do any numbers ever change?
That's a good question. Numbers never change, and they are called constants. But there are some letters that you might not know that this letter, where's it at? Oh, no, I don't want that. This letter doesn't change either. It's a constant, but you don't know it yet unless I think your little, your symbols will eventually tell you it is a number, and I can't remember, it's Euler's number, but I can't remember the exact constant that goes with it, but it's Euler's number, and it's when we do exponential growth, which you're not sure what that is yet, but eventually when you get there. So letters can be constants, but constants cannot be variables, okay? All right. The next one, algebraic expression. Someone read that one for me. Who feels comfortable reading besides Zeb, since he just did? Go ahead, JD.
A group of numbers, variables, and symbols of mathematical operation.
And I'm going to add to that definition. Are you ready? I'm going to do a difference. I'm going to do this. 2x plus 5, that is an expression. But 2x plus 5 equals 7 is not an expression.
It's an equation.
It's an equation. So what is the difference in those two? The equal sign. This one is not an expression. It is an equation. And the word equation has a word in it that should tell you about this. Can you hear the word equation has something to do with equals? Yes. It means you're putting two things equal to each other. All right? It's an equation. This is an expression. An algebraic expression, by the way, because it's got x's and variables in it. All right, let's do the last one. I'm going to erase this one. Who feels comfortable reading a coefficient, please? Coefficient. Go ahead, Ben.
Coefficient, a number factor in front of a variable.
Very good. So, based on that one, is it the 2 or the 5 that is a coefficient?
2.
The 2. 2 is a coefficient. What's 5?
5
Variable.
is a number.
It's a number. It's not a variable because it's not a letter. What is 5? It's a constant. Very good. Very good. It's a constant. 2 is a coefficient and 5 is a constant. All right, so this is what I want you to do. We're going to read these symbols. So I'm just going to bring this to we've talked about this one before. Symbols in mathematics and algebra. I'm going to read it. Please read with me. It's on the same page, I believe. It's at the bottom. Some of you are in yellow, some of it's in green. All right? It says, because the multiplication sign x can be easy to mistaken for the variable x, several different methods are used to indicate multiplication in algebra. Using the following indicates multiplication of 9 and 4. There are several examples in here, down here at the bottom. If I just put them next to each other with a 9 and a parentheses in there, I put a dot, I put parentheses around them all. I've been writing one that's not in your book, but it looks like a star, and that's the one that your calculator uses, okay? Questions? All right, I want us to write this in your notebook. Please write this in your notebook. 2x plus 4y plus x plus 8. Please write that in your notebook, please.
I forgot a notebook.
Does someone have an extra piece of paper for Zeb that he can use? Or maybe you guys can do it. Okay, that works. Please put today's date at the top of these notes. Today's the 28th. Today's August 28th. That way you'll kind of know. And if you even might want to put 1.9, now you'll know what section we're doing. So if you ever look back and need to look at it. All right, so I want you to first write either two words, expression or equation, please. Tell me which one this is, expression or equation. Give me a hands up when you write that. If you want to just write EX or EQ, I don't mind that either. I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 people who know. 6, 7. Okay, so how many said that this was an expression? Raise your hand. How many said it was an equation? All right, what differentiates an expression from an equation?
The equal sign.
Does this have an equal sign? No, and I'm going to even write the word equation up here real quick.
You can combine the x and the 2x.
You can and make it even smaller. You could. EQUATION. I want you to notice it has the equa at the beginning to give you the indication that it's an equation. Okay, so this one does not have a equal, so it's an expression. Okay, I want you to find the constant or constants. There could be more than one. So I want you to write the word constant and equals, and you put the constant for me, please. Raise your hand when you've identified which one's the constant. 2, 3, 4. And you wrote the word constant even? You did. Except one person not writing it down. That's okay, I guess. Okay, Zeb, which one's the constant?
8.
How do you know it's the constant?
It's not assigned with a variable.
It does not assign with a variable, and it's a number that doesn't change, right? Okay, so that's wonderful. It was 8. I want you to identify, this was an expression, we did that. I want you to identify the variables, please. Could be one thing, it could be more, that's why I put it in parentheses. I got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I want the variables. All right, Ben, which one's the variables?
2 and 4.
No. Which one's the variables? Which one?
X, Y.
X and Y are the variables, okay? So the variables are the letters. And did you have to list X, X, and Y?
No.
Why?
Because there's already 2 X.
There's just an X. If X is 5,
X is already in the
You can combine
equation.
it too, so it's just
yes, if X is 5, it's 5 both places. And like Zach keeps wanting me to do, he's like,
3.
simplify those things together. That's right.
You can make it 3x.
You could make that 3x, and we're going to talk about that in just a minute. You're doing really good. Coefficients. I want you to write down the coefficients, please. And if you need to look back at the definitions on your book, what is a coefficient? That would be great. I've got 1, 2 people who have the coefficients figured out. 3, 4, 5. Ben, do you want to redeem yourself? Which ones are the coefficients?
2 and 4.
2 and 4. Do we agree with him? Good job, Ben. Good job. Okay, I'm going to have you do me a favor because Zach keeps wanting this. He says that this 2x and this x should be combined, and he said he wanted to make it 3x, which I am totally in agreement. But where in the world is 2 and this something in the middle right there become 3?
Well, because that's 1x.
Because this is really a 1x, and mathematicians, I've been telling you before, are efficient. And they don't want to write more than they have to. So if there's nothing in front of it, it's an invisible 1. Right?
Efficient but lazy.
Efficient. Because mathematicians work hard all day, and their brains never stop making all these calculations. They are not lazy, but they have so much to do, and they don't want to write as much as they have to. All right. So that's something you need to realize. Everyone needs to know this. If there's not a number in front of the variable, it's automatically a 1. Okay? All right, let's do this one. Write this down on your paper, please. Don't evaluate the expression. Please write the 6 times 5 plus y plus 10 when y equals 14. If you know how to do it, then do. If you don't, raise your hand when you're ready for me to do it.
Wait,
Just write this part here.
Is that supposed to be times?
That is a times. Very good question. I got one person who's...
But I know how to do it.
Okay, I got 2 people that are ready for me to write it down.
Oh, God.
3. All right. It says when y is 14, what does that mean I'm going to do with that y and 14?
Turns into 14.
I'm going to do what, Asa?
Turns into a 14.
Which part turns into a 14?
Y.
The y turns into a 14. So, I want everyone to watch me, please. Please watch me, gentlemen. I've got all men in this room. And I'm going to make a stereotype that I hope there is someone in here who does not fall into it. But most of the time, men don't want to write things down. They want to just do it in their head. And their mothers and their teachers are going, you got to write this down. Okay, so right now, these are probably ones you could do in your head. But as you get further along in algebra and in algebra 2 and pre-calculus, because you are so competent in this, you gentlemen could be engineers. You could be astronauts. Every one of you in this room has the ability to do whatever you want. But you will start to make your life harder and make it harder for you to do those things if you don't get procedures. So I'm going to teach you procedures right now. Are you ready? You bring down the 6, the multiply. If you don't want to write it that way, just a dot is fine. Plus, underneath the y becomes what?
14.
14 plus 10. We have not covered order of operations because they expect you already know this. What comes first when we do this? We multiply. And I am showing you the way I want you to do these problems, okay? So 6 times 5 is how much? 30. I bring down the plus 14 and the plus 10. So at this point, since I've seen your procedures, if you want to jump to the answer, you can, but I'm going to do this one next. Probably. I don't know. You can even do that one first if you wanted. And that's what?
Right to left.
24 plus 30. You could do right to left, but when you're doing addition and subtraction, you can do them in any order.
Not right to left. It's usually left to right. That's how it.
So, but when you're doing addition, you can do them in any order, okay? We did that associative and commutative, right? All right, what does this become now? 54. So, I am not only going to be looking at your homework this next time, that if you have the right answer, but I want to see some work, not just this elusive, floating answer out there that we don't have anywhere. You got it, okay? All right. Okay. All right, here we go. In your book. I'm showing page 34, but you guys know on you who have the textbook, you'll find it for me. It's on, actually you might not even need to. You can just do it in your book. We're going to do numbers 4, 7, and 10. You two though need to either do it on a separate sheet of paper or move it somewhere so that we can do it together. They want you to identify the coefficient. They want you to, we're going to talk about, don't do 7 yet. We're going to do it together. And 10. So you do 4 and 10 and see if you can do those by yourself. Don't do 7. We're going to talk about 7. Give me a hands up when you're done with 4 and 10.
Just 4 and 10?
Yes, 4 and 10. We're going to do 7 together. I've got one person who's done. Let's do number 4. What is the coefficient of 3x? 3. Why is it not x?
Because it's a variable.
X is the variable. Very good. Yes, 3. We're skipping 7 for a moment. All right. A moment ago, someone asked an excellent question. When we have this 2x...
Did we do 1, 2, or 3?
We're not doing 1, 2, and 3 yet. You'll do that at home. When I have the 2 and the x, is that when I put the 3 in there, does that make it 23? No, it makes it 2 times 3. I personally either like to use a dot or parentheses. Z was 4 and y was 5. All right, so now I use order of operations. Remember, I'm modeling how to do this work for you. 2 times 3 is what we do first. What's 2 times 3?
6.
And if you wanted at this point, I wouldn't mind, since this is algebra and most of you can do this in your head, you can do that all together. But you still only can do 2 at a time in your head, by the way. There's 10 minus 5 is how much? 5. I want to see you plug it in and one brain step at least. You might have to do multiple, okay? Let's do 7. There are some kind of unwritten rules in algebra. No, I don't ever think that I saw like this list of rules, but when we are listing our variables and our coefficients, we always put the coefficients first. We always put the coefficients first. This textbook, if you look, and it's for you, page 30, Zach, at the top, there's a paragraph, and it's for the rest of you, page 34. Raise your hand when you're at page 34. There is a paragraph at the very top. It's the second paragraph, and it starts with the word standard. Do you see where I am? Standard what?
Practice.
Okay, so I'm going to read it for you.
Yep, I got it.
Standard practice is to place coefficients before variables and to arrange the variables in alphabetical order, period. I am going to politely disagree. The only thing I'm going to agree with the coefficient going first. So in number 7, z, x, y, and 5, we need to put the 5 first. They say that the variables now need to be in alphabetical order. I am going to politely disagree. Why would I be able to write x, y, z, or z, x, y? Why could I write them in any order? Z, x, y. Because it's multiplication and it doesn't matter. We have 3 of them, and it's the associative property. 2 of them would be the commutative property.
Can we skip all of those?
No, you still need to put the coefficient in front. Okay? But when you're looking at the answer key, they're going to have them in alphabetical order. So you need to realize that your ZYX can be XYZ. And you in your mind have to go, oh, the rules, they're just putting them in alphabetical order, but I can have them in order. But what has to be in front? The coefficient has to be in front. So I could have either 5ZYX or 5XYZ, and I'm going to circle this one because the answer key will probably have 5XYZ.
We're allowed to put them in alphabetical order?
You're allowed to put them in alphabetical order if you want, definitely. Then you'll be able to look in the answer key and go right for yourself, yes. Sometimes there's so many variables and you're looking them all around, but if you do put them in alphabetical order, and later you're adding 7 XYZ, and Asa didn't write XYZ, he wrote ZYX, it's harder for you to see that they're like terms when you put things together. So you putting them all in alphabetical order actually will make your life easier identifying things, okay? All right. Questions? All right. In this section, you learned the vocabulary, some vocabulary for algebra. Not all of it, but some vocabulary. We learned about coefficients, expressions, variables, and constants, okay? And how to evaluate those by plugging them in. Don't forget that 110 is a quiz. We won't be covering that in class.
Oh, I have a question.